Well, federal cabinet ministers were out in their communities this weekend touting the government's new Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit. The GST top-up is a plank of the Liberals' affordability agenda this session of Parliament. Caryn Ceolin caught up with Minister Rechie Valdez to discuss whether the measure will make a significant difference to everyone.
Minister, it's such a pleasure to be speaking with you today. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you for having me, Caryn. This is wonderful, and it's good to be here in Iqbal Foods, right in the heart of Mississauga.
I do have questions about the affordability measures that your government hopes to introduce. This is very similar to something that your government introduced back in 2022 under former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, in which you hiked the GST rebate for a period of 6 months. That ultimately, though, didn't change prices at the checkout. Why go this route again 4 years later, as opposed to tackling the root cause of what's leading to higher prices at the grocery store?
I think that's a great question. I'm going to answer that in a few ways. First, in terms of what we announced today, I reinforced the announcement that Prime Minister Carney made earlier this week. That is the National Groceries and Essentials benefit. That is addressing the acute need that Canadians need today. What you talked about in terms of root causes, very important. And our government is doing much more than simply providing funds to Canadians, which are vitally needed. We're also addressing those root causes. One way in which we're doing that is introducing the National Food Security Strategy. We have many farmers, we have many small businesses that are like grocers, like Iqbal Foods, like here, and we're trying to support our small business as well, provide them with the support to help them transition their business if they're having challenges or stuck with supply chains. And why this is important is because we want to make sure that our grocers and businesses, they don't pass the costs that they're receiving on to consumers or Canadians. And finally, one of the things I will mention, because I did serve on the Agriculture and Agri-Foods Committee, we work very closely with the Competition Bureau. One of the things they recommended was encouraging unit price selling, having transparency in groceries. So when you're looking around and you're comparing two apples to apples products, if we have unit prices there right at the grocery stores, then you can make a decision between one product and another. So having that transparency is vitally important when you're making a decision between keeping a product on the shelf or taking it with you.
Yeah, I certainly take your point that unit pricing would be beneficial to consumers, and also take your point about the supply chain constraints. But at the same time, grocery store profits over the last year have remained really strong, and that has nothing to do with supply chains and everything to do with the more Canadians are paying because of inflation and how that's being turned into corporate profit. How are you going to address that? Because again, in 2022, your government, warned the grocery sector to get its act together, or there were going to be consequences, and nothing substantial ever materialized.
Yeah, that's a great question. What I can say is, again, that's why we're making sure that we're introducing competition so that we can have like-for-like grocers compete with each other. And then that also helps with how they're pricing here at grocery stores. And I think there's many different ways that we're trying to do that. Again, helping small businesses with helping curb their costs.
Conservatives have pointed to a number of different measures, the industrial carbon tax, for instance, as being part of the root causes for higher grocery prices. Are those measures your government might take a second look at?
What negatively impacts grocery stores in terms of hiking them is actually the impact of climate change, but also the global uncertainty around the world, whether that's global disruptions from what you're seeing in Ukraine. But again, there's a lot of things out of our control, but the things that we do have within our control, we are doing, and that is why we announced the Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit. That is going to directly impact Canadians, helps with the pocketbook issues that we're having today. But again, we're trying to focus on what we can control.
I don't think anyone would disagree that more money in the bank account is a good thing. But grocery prices have been an issue for years. They have, risen some 30% since 2019. Why didn't your government take action sooner?
Food Banks Canada has come out and said they support this, and it's a great first step to ensuring, because they see people come into food banks on a regular basis, they see this as being a very important first step to ensuring that we're able to help provide the support that Canadians vitally need today.
Okay, Minister, a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you so much for making the time.
For sure. Thank you so much, Caryn.